50 points, a great milestone. 60, a once or twice a season occurrence. But 70 points has only happened 13 times ever in NBA history and is remembered for decades as a key part in the history books and usually the most memorable game of that player's career. In this video, we will look at 5 categories of 70-point games and how this changed that player's career and the NBA. When the NBA started, it looked like 70 may be impossible with incredibly low-scoring games due to teams just holding the ball with only one 60-point game in the first 5 seasons. But once the NBA introduced a shot clock, which forced the ball out of players' hands into the basket, the 70 bomb felt inevitable. Now, this would all ramp up with the influx of talent entering the NBA, including Elgin Baylor. Baylor was the first overall pick by the Minneapolis and later Los Angeles Lakers in the 1958 draft and would immediately become a star, averaging 25 points per game as the Rookie of the Year and first-team All-NBA forward. He would also break the single-game points record, as in just his second season he would score 64 points, the first time in NBA history. But in 1 year and a week later, history would be made. Now, there's not a play-by-play or a full game other than a couple highlights out there for a game this early in the NBA, so we are not able to see how Elgin Baylor got these buckets, but Baylor demolished the points record. 71. Before the three-point line, Elgin Baylor dropped 71 points in a 15-point win against the New York Knicks and start the history of the 70-point game. While Elgin Baylor was an incredible talent, he would not stack up to Wilt Chamberlain. The 7-footer drafted to the Philadelphia Warriors came into the league as arguably the best in the entire world, breaking all sorts of records as one of the best athletes ever documented, as an all-world track star, volleyball player, jumper, and of course, basketball player. Now, later in his career, Chamberlain's stats would drastically fail, but in 2023, he's commonly known as the man who is at the top of seemingly every record, and this is one of them. Just a few months into his third season, Chamberlain would score 78 points, the new NBA record, but he would not stop there. Wilt would go on to score 73 a couple months later, before the infamous 100-point game that season. This was all on the way to averaging 50 points a game, becoming the first and most likely only player for the rest of NBA history to average 50 points. The next season, he would score 70 a game 3 times again, but after that, Chamberlain wouldn't score 70 in a single game for the rest of his career. He would retire with 6 70 bombs, all coming in 2 seasons, which is by far the most in history, as not a single other player has scored 70 multiple times in their career. This category isn't like the other ones where it breaks a record for something, but this 70 bomb broke the streak. April 24th, 1994 was the last time someone had scored 70 in a game, and despite the talent of Michael Jordan, Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, Hakeem Olajuwon, Dirk Nowitzki, Tim Duncan, Shaquille O'Neal, and LeBron James, all having played after that, it had been almost 12 years since the last 70-pointer, and it was approaching the largest streak of all time between 70-pointers. It also looked unlikely that the streak would be broken, as this was in one of the slowest and low-scoring eras in the shot clock era. But on one special night in Staples Center, everything would change. Kobe would get off to a fast start with 26 at the end of the first 24, but nothing that really led us to expect that he would even touch 70. But it was Kobe beating Bryant. In the third quarter alone, Kobe would demand the ball get to his spots and the contest didn't matter. Nothing the defense did mattered because it was Bean. But he wouldn't stop there, as the game was still close with the battling Raptors, and in the fourth quarter, Bean would draw 13 free throw attempts, sinking 12 of them, and finish that quarter with 28, half with 55, and game with 81. The second highest scoring game ever, in a time where this shouldn't have been possible, becoming just the 5th player to ever score 70 and 2nd to ever score 80. Even though we just talked about a 70-pointer that was unexpected, I think we can all agree that this was by far the most unexpected 70 bomb of all time. Now, Devin Booker was a bucket getter who was very inefficient but one of the best young scorers in the league, as he was just 20 years old. And as his Suns were one of the worst teams in the league, the second-year guard was at the forefront of the Suns' development. But when Phoenix went to TD Garden at the end of the year to play the first-seed Boston Celtics, nobody could have imagined what Booker was about to do. At the end of the first half, it looked like Booker would have a pretty good night, as he was shooting 7 for 14 with 19 points, and even though the Suns were losing by 20, it was a good night for Booker. Well, all of that would change in the third quarter. Booker would come out of the gates with 2 and 1s in just the first 3 minutes and go into the fourth quarter with 42 points. And having already got his career high With his first time breaking 40, it looked like Booker would have a good chance to shock the world and go for 50. Okay, well maybe he can get to 60, right? Wait, he actually got 60? Well, there's no way he can get 70. He's just 20 years old. That's never even been done in TD Garden, right? Devin Booker with one of, if not the best single game scoring performances of any Sun ever, including players like Charles Barkley, as he actually scored 70 at just 20 years old, becoming the youngest to hit 70 and even just 60 points in a single game. After not having anyone score 70 since Devin Booker, there were two 70-pointers this season, and it happened within a 2-month stretch. The first time ever that two players dropped 70 in the same season, and in the midst of one of the highest scoring stretches in NBA history. And it really wouldn't be fair if we didn't talk about both of them. Now, Donovan Mitchell and Damian Lillard are both at very different points in their career, with Mitchell looking like he could be entering his prime on a future contender for the Cleveland Cavaliers, while Dame looks like he may be nearing the end of his prime on a Blazer team that hasn't provided him with legitimate help and could fail to win a championship with Lillard as the guy. But both of them are explosive scorers that can go off at any time, and these two games showed exactly that. But the differences were even pointed out in the game, as Spida would start the first half with a solid 16 points, but was down to the Bulls by 18. But Dame had 41, while the sub-500 Portland Trail Blazers were beating up on the Rockets. Dame continued to knock down threes, as he would eventually drain 13 of them, but in the other games, Spida and the Cavs would force a comeback with a 42-point Mitchell second half and highlight putback to force overtime. And in overtime, Mitchell would hit 3 threes. And while this was a memorable and historic comeback by Cleveland, and for the Blazers a much-needed win, with one shot left, there was just one thing going through everyone's minds. Can they drop 70?
Turn up, Gino.
Thank you all so much for watching the video. This is a different type of video. I'm going to be doing stuff like this, where it's different from that usual NBA commentary I do. Might go back to it eventually, but I think this might be better for the channel, doing different types of videos that you don't really see on at least NBA YouTube. I might have a more NBA the history of, something like that. I know I have a Nikola Jokic kind of career video coming out in a couple weeks, hopefully if they win the finals. And I think hopefully a Klay Thompson video next week. I'm not sure if it's going to be weekly, but I hope you enjoyed kind of starting this out, because usually my videos do better if they get to 8 minutes instead of 7 minutes, whatever, 6 minutes, whatever. But yeah, thank you so much for watching the video. Tell me if you enjoyed these types of videos in the description or in the comments.